The following is a presentation of iRacing.com Motorsports Simulations on LSRTV, the voice of sim racing.
Good evening, race fans, and welcome here to LSRTV and round number 18 of the Super Speedway Cup Series. We're here at Daytona 07 for some old school racing with a whole new crowd as our final six move on to second segment of the playoffs. And well, the temperature has already risen. We had a fiery finale to the first segment of the playoffs. I'm Rachel Whitefield. I'm joined today by Brian Macklin. Brian, this one is definitely going to be interesting. We've got a smaller grid for once, 15 cars so far, but wow, the tempo just going to be as high.
Oh, absolutely, and it's also going to tighten up this field as far as the top six is concerned for the next three races, because they don't stand as big a chance of losing as many points in a race this small because they can't finish as far back as they could a few weeks ago when we had 25 to 30 vehicles. So it gives them an opportunity to have a mulligan, so to speak. So if they have a bad night here tonight, they can make up for it in the next two.
Yeah, they said again, of course, and we'll have to make sure that is less of an issue tonight, of course. But as this will go forwards, the guys are going to have to be very careful with how this progresses. A lot of time forwards. But Brian, just take us through some track facts here for Daytona.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a beautiful 2.5 mile super speedway. Of course, we're on the old surface here tonight, so you're going to see a lot of bumps on the track. You're going to see these cars bouncing around and really all over the place. We don't have the new surface here tonight. It's going to be a very, very exciting race. Just going to be a lot of high-speed racing. Expect the tires to wear out here as well, because on this older surface, it eats the tires alive. And as the tires, or as these guys run laps on the tires, they're going to fade, and you're going to see these guys searching around for some grip.
Yeah, they certainly are, of course, as we'll try and deal with this one, of course, but a little technical hitch for some reason. You can hear everything in my background. I'm not sure why this is happening, but the track is very loud here behind me at Daytona Speedway.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead and look at the points here in just a moment. We're going to see what everybody is looking like as they head into this last round of the playoffs here tonight at the Daytona circa 2007. You'll see Mark Jorgensen, Brandon Chaburko, Rodney Wolford, Chris Passini, Jason Altmans, and Corey Henry. They're all sitting at 3,000 points apiece, because now that the segment has started over, they get to start at the same amount of points, and they will race it out for the championship here in the next three races. It's going to be very exciting. We have qualifying going on right now. It's going to wrap up here in about 2 minutes. Currently sitting on the provisional pole is Rod Flagg. He's got a fast lap of 48.391, and he's got that pole over Rodney Wolford, who has a 48.401. So pretty tight lap times here right now. If you look through the entire top six, they're separated by about 0.02 of a second, and that has certainly shown just how fast and how competitive all of these cars are here tonight. Should be a very exciting race when it's all said and done. We're going to have 18 cars in the field, unless anybody else joins in here in the last couple of minutes. Should be a very exciting 100 laps here at the Daytona International Speedway.
Certainly should. We'll also get those qualifying moments in the books. Let's take this opportunity to look at who we've got left in this playoff round of six. The drivers: Brandon Chaburko, Corey Henry, Mark Jorgensen Jr., Chris Passini, Jason Altmans, and Rodney Wolford. Well, it's a little bit about those guys, because these are the ones to watch, of course, in this final round. It's the fourth playoff appearance for Chaburko, third for Henry, fourth for Jorgensen Jr. Best finish for all of them so far was fourth for Jorgensen Jr., sixth for Henry, of course, ninth for Chaburko. Passini, his fourth, Altman's fourth, and the sixth time in the playoffs here for Rodney Wolford. The most times in the playoffs, his best finish was second So the bridesmaid rather than the bride for Rodney Wofford in that number 7 car. Maybe this time could change things for him. We'll have to see. He's had the best finish out of all of them so far, so Brian, he could be one to really keep an eye on, but Jorgensen Jr. has had a phenomenal season.
Well, and back to your point about Rodney Wofford, he's also the only driver that has participated in every single playoff that this series has had. So that's a pretty impressive stat for him to be able to hold. But I do think it's really cool that we're going to see a new champion crowned this season. None of these drivers have won a championship here in the Superspeedway Cup. So we should see a new champion. We will see a new champion when it's all said and done. It's going to be very exciting to see which of these 6 drivers can get the job done when it's all said and done.
Certainly will. And well, folks, without further ado, we're going to go to your starting grid for round number 18.
And you're going to see sitting on the pole here tonight, he gets that pole Rod Flag with a 48.391, and to his outside, sitting on the row or outside of row number 1, Rodney Wofford will start P2. Then we have Andrew Berger starting 3rd, Chris Passini starts 4th, and rounding out the top 5, Mark Jorgensen Jr.
Certainly is, of course, Corey Henry, one of your playoff drivers, starting in 6th place, with Justin Devine behind him in 7th place, Paul Savant in the 8th spot, Daniel Osborne back in 9th, Ray Renard 2nd in 10th place.
11th goes to Gary Champion, and then we have Tom Drilling starting 12th, Scott Warren starts 13th, Larry Camp gets 14th, and rounding out the top 15, he's the last driver that took a time here tonight, Dan Harrington starts P15.
He does indeed. A newer driver is Ryan Pilland, who's starting behind him in 16th place with Brandon Chaburko, one of those playoff drivers back in 17th. He's done this a few times now. It doesn't seem to affect his chances of getting to the front, especially with this small grid tonight. Behind him, Brandon Cruz Monsivice and Mike Thiel rounding out your field in 19th place. As things will get ready to roll off pit road, and the Ford Mustang pace car will head out onto the very bumpy surface here of Daytona. We get ready for 2 hours of racing around this historic speedway. Just a little bit more historic than we normally are used to, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. This old school throwback to the old surface is so fun. I love when leagues bring us back to the old surface, because it just takes you back to a time when these drivers were all over the place skating around lap after lap, and the tires actually mean something on this older surface, which is more so here than any other time we go to the restrictor plate racing. It's just such an exciting race to come to. I love when I get the opportunity to get down there and race with them. It's going to be a heck of a race for us to call.
Certainly will be, of course. The pace car will pull away now, heading out onto the track to commence tonight's racing festivities. Rod Flag out front with a fantastic time there. They 48.391. Wow, just 10/100ths ahead of Rodney Wofford in 2nd place. Wofford with a fantastic qualifying there, as is Passini back in the 4th spot. Jorgensen Jr., how long will it take him to get to the front? We'll have to find out. Although he is running a little bit further back than we think he should be in 5th place, but they'll catch up and that one should be no real issue. Very reduced grid tonight. We'll keep our eyes on how your playoff drivers will fare during this one. Folks, if you are wanting to find out who they are, look out for those green window banners signifying playoff contenders in this one. You'll find those on the cars of Flag. Sorry, you'll find those on the cars even of Chaburko, Henry, Jorgensen Jr., Passini, Altmans, and Wofford. Although, no Altmans this week.
Yeah, how about that? You would really expect to see him here racing for his opportunity to win the championship. However, not being here is going to severely hurt his opportunity to do so. So it looks like it's a battle between 5 drivers here tonight, and for those 5 drivers, at least 4 of them start up inside the top 6, which is going to make things very exciting at the front to see how they try to handle this start and how they try to race each other at the beginning of this race.
So it will do. The pace car will come out of turn number 4 here at Daytona and get ready to take that long left-hand turn down to pit road, leaving the field in the command of Rod Flag here tonight to call the start. The green flag will fly, and we're away.
Green flag underway here at the Daytona International Speedway, and immediately Rod Flag tries to control the inside line. He's getting a big push from Andrew Berger as they head to turn 1. And on the outside, Rodney Walford's looking for help from Chris Passini, but right now the inside line's got the advantage as they work getting up to speed here. You see Mark Jorgensen Jr. Trying to push that inside line, and now as they come off turn 2, Rod Flag jumps to the outside. He's going to block the outside line. It's a big push from Walford as they head to turn 3, and now Berger's going to try to challenge for the lead here as they head to 3.
So here's big start there up front from Flag. But look at this, Walford already putting pressure on him from behind. Cassini up on the high side. The high side's strong right now as it's come out of 4 to end lap number 1. Rod Flag should hold the lead for this first lap. And an impressive qualifying time. They'll come across and towards number 1. The high side faltering though at this point, Brian, as the low side just getting a little bit more strong. It seems like a lot of cars behind them, but also staying high, even though the whole field is somewhat spread out. And well, with our reduced numbers tonight, green flag pit stops and having friends to go to pit road with are going to be the order of the day.
Oh, absolutely. You're going to want to find your friends early and stick with them for the majority of the race. I think something you'll see as the tires do wear out is these drivers will start migrating up to that second groove. There are less bumps up there in the middle of the corners, and you can get around the track a little bit more smoothly, especially once the tires do wear out. So I imagine after 10 to 15 laps when these guys are really skating around, you'll see the majority of them start moving up the racetrack and use the bottom as a lane to try to make moves to try to take a position away from somebody. I have a feeling it'll be the preferred groove as this race progresses, and you see right now Rod Flag is doing a pretty good job commanding that outside line with just 3 cars up there with the number 7 of Rodney Walford and the number 1 of Chris Passini. They're doing a pretty good job. They have not dominated as far as being out there by themselves, but they're not losing ground to the inside line yet.
Absolutely not, but look at who's second in line on the low side. Jorgensen Jr. already working his way forward to this one, and did a shout of the front already. Something we expect from him every single week, and he's in the right spot to make it happen here behind Andrew Berger. On the outside is Rod Flag, Rodney Walford, Chris Passini there behind them, and 17 of Levine, with 12 of Henry, and the 8 of Osborne, forming your front group of 7 cars there. Just behind him, the whole field stringing back over possibly a couple of hundred meters here. Brian has said this is a very relaxed affair today. The whole field just stringing out, giving each other room, not getting too tight on this very tricky track. Keeping tight to the cars is probably the hardest part of this particular configuration. Staying in line, so much harder on this very, very aggressive surface.
Yeah, absolutely. And being able to hold your line on the bottom of the racetrack when you have cars to the outside, that's extremely tricky because of how bumpy the bottom of the racetrack is. You'll see these guys as they come off the corners, especially off turn 4, the inside line really struggles and will bounce up the racetrack coming off the corner. And now you start seeing these guys are moving to the outside line as Jorgensen jumps up to the outside line in front of Corey Henry, and he's going to work his way around the number 24 of Andrew Berger. This outside line is really starting to move in a little bit quicker than I thought it would, truthfully, Rachel, as we're only 5 laps in, and the lead cars have all kind of migrated their way up there. But the bottom of the racetrack is just so bumpy. When you're down there on the bottom and you're trying to race for position, you can't do it. Now we have a battle for the lead as Walford's going to try to make the move on Rod Flag. He got help from Chris Passini, and with a big push from behind, they're going to take the race lead here in the middle of 3 and 4.
Certainly are, as this one fans out. Rod Flag's Pontiac Grand Prix stalling on the outside. No friends to work with him here as Passini and Walford will shoot through the gap. And on the low side, look at this, a big run by Jorgensen Jr. and Henry behind him as that low side suddenly frees up for Jr. to come flying through in that 88 machine to go straight to the sharp end here. Levine behind them trying and catch up here. The 76 there, Warren gonna jump in line here. We'll have 4x4 each line along the front as the top side just gets a big boost there. Will Passini and Walford pull down? They stay high. It's the bumpy line down low, like you mentioned, Brian. These guys don't particularly want to get involved in that, and so far for the first time we're seeing a low side generally struggle here at Daytona.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think it just has so much to do with the fact that the cars are bouncing around so much on the bottom of the racetrack. They have to lift coming off the corner to keep from bouncing up into the cars to their outside, which hurts their momentum. And when those cars on the outside can stay in the throttle and pull away, it just works out better for them. And now you see Jorgensen is down on the bottom essentially by himself as he lost his help from behind. Corey Henry jumped up to the outside line. He does have some help coming from behind, but it's going to take just a couple of seconds. The number 76 machine of Scott Warren is trying to catch up to him, but you can see how much momentum he has lost by not having that car tucked up, as Walford and Pacini were able to gap him going down the back straightaway. He now fights back on the inside line, trying to take the shortest line around the racetrack, but again, coming off turn 4, you're going to see the outside line prevail as Walford starts to pull away once again as he's trying to get to the stripe.
Certainly is. Look at this fanning out we're seeing across the tri-oval here on lap number 8 in Daytona. Wow, your field is very much spread out compared to how we usually see things. Pacini and Watford holding that middle lane there. Jorgensen Jr. trying to make some ground on the low side now. 76 car. Warren has made his way forwards. Berger back there in 3rd place in the inside line. Devine behind him, and the 87 written out as second down there too. Osborne behind them, and the 3 of Savant. But the high side certainly proving to have the legs it needs right now. They've had to run so far. Flag, Pacini and Watford. Very strong competition on that high side so far, Brian. They've managed to hold the speeds and run lap 9 this time by the stripe, and we're not seeing quite the same dominant performance here from Junior. He's having to side draft up to the middle lane, not vice versa here, to try and keep himself towards the front end. This bottom side is so aggressive on these cars, and he'll dive up there in front of the middle lane. This is backwards racing we're seeing.
What an aggressive move by Mark Jorgensen Jr. right there. He was on the bottom of the racetrack. He got barely clear of the number 7 of Rodney Walford and just sliced his way to the outside line to take control of that outside line and take control of the race. And on lap number 9, he's officially going to be shown as your leader, but he's got a challenge from the inside now as Scott Warren got a great run through the middle of 3 and 4, was able to get side by side with him, and now it's going to be a drag race back to the stripe. Who's going to win the battle to the stripe? It's going to be Jorgensen. He's going to lead lap number 10 as they come around here now with a big push from behind, and you can see some of these guys are starting to get a little bit more aggressive. This pack is starting to tighten up just a little bit. Rachel, I think those guys that were hanging around at the back have seen that there's a little bit of a multi-groove racing going on that we haven't seen recently here, and they realize they can be a little bit more competitive than in weeks past. I think the new build that Iverson came out with might have actually made a little bit of a difference for these guys.
Certainly has definitely affected tyres and how they handle with lockups, so some things that might be an issue getting on and off pit road, they'll have to be a consideration, because we are more than likely going to see some green flag stops in tonight's race, Brian. So diving down pit road, locking tyres if you're not planning to take tyres could definitely cost you. These guys will have to think about that as Jorgensen Jr. out front there. The multi-groove aspect of this one definitely a huge factor, as you mentioned. Warren on the low side leading that cabal with Berger, Levine, and written out a second. Again, look at the top side. Far more cars up there. Having a much stronger day right now. Pacini in a bit of a sucker hole on the top side behind Watford ahead of Flag. Look at who's behind Flag though. That's Chuberko. He's not wasted much time in getting up here from 17th, running in the 8th place, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely. Very methodically making his way to the front, doing what Chuberko does best, and that's making aggressive moves and working his way towards the front as quickly as possible. Not surprised at all with the drive he's had so far in the number 22 machine, trying to work his way up front and get himself into position to race the rest of these playoff contenders for that championship. Of course, they got 3 races to do it, but you want to start off strong here tonight, and you got to get up there and challenge these guys if you want to do that. Right now, though, look at Scott Warren. He may not be involved in the championship battle, but he's racing like he is, as he's side drafting the outside line, doing everything he can, trying to take the race lead here and trying to jump ahead of Jorgensen, but you just see he just doesn't quite have the help now, as Jorgensen got a great run off the corner. He tries to pinch down that inside line, now slots back up in front of Wofford, and is going to try to use the momentum off turn 4 here to try to carry him back to the stripe, and indeed he's going to do that as he gets a great run off turn 4, and it looks like Jorgensen will once again lead at the stripe. He gets clear of Scott Warren, who's not giving up that battle at all.
Certainly not for now, as this one will stay heated up here on 13 of 100. Could be heading up towards the halfway point in our fuel run right now, so we'll be starting to see these guys partnering up over the next 10 or so laps here, Brian. We'll see what they're planning to do, because things so far have seemed fairly safe. Cars moving around, of course, but at the same time, lots of room between them. They're giving each other a lot of space, knowing how difficult this track can be, how the car can move on its own almost, and we're seeing some very respectful behavior in this half. Will that last to the full distance? We will have to find out, but for now, things going the way of the patient racer at Daytona 07. On the low side, though, it's Rodney Warford scored as your leader this time by. Had the run there on Jorgensen Jr., leading that forward charge of the low side over the cars on the top lane. Top lane just holding the distance, spread out somewhat here compared to how they've been running recently, as the steady march forwards of Chaburko continues in this one. He's behind Flag there. In fact, apart from Flag, that's 3 chase drivers on the top side. Wofford leading the race on the low side from the chase also. Henry back there on the bottom. He is running currently down in the 12th spot. But Jorgensen Jr., he's got himself to the front very quickly. He did what he had to do, and with 2 chase cars in the front row here, Brian, these guys are very much aware of the priorities they have in this race.
Oh, absolutely. And the safest place for these drivers is out front. If you can be in the lead and in control of this race, you stand the least chance of getting caught up in something should there be a wreck. And so for Jorgensen and for Walford, I think this is absolutely what they should be doing. Get out front, try to control this race, and try to stay ahead of whatever might happen behind you. That way you don't hurt your chances at winning the championship as we move down the stretch. This is absolutely the type of racing I expected to see out of these drivers. And it seems like, for the most part, we're seeing that out of all of our championship drivers. Corey Henry was up there. You mentioned just a moment ago, Rachel, that he fell back to 12th. He got shuffled out of line and had to go back there just to kind of stay in the draft. I imagine he'll start working his way back to the front over the next handful of laps and try to get up there and race with them. And we're starting to hear word that some of these drivers may be making an effort to come to pit road here in the next lap or two. So we're going to have to wait and see what happens. But some of the drivers have started signaling that they want to make their way to pit road.
Yeah, they certainly have, but it won't be any time soon for them. Probably another 10 laps, I'd say, at least at this point, Brian. But it's something that'll be on their mind, of course, once you pass that halfway point into the fuel run. You have to start thinking about when and where you'll go to get to pit road, who you're around, and who's likely to come with you. As on the low side, Scott Warren, the 76 car, taking the lead. Andrew Berger pushing him along behind him. Jorgensen Jr. and Wofford on the high side doing what they can to try and push back, but it is once again Scott Warren up there in the top spot. I think we just haven't gotten single file so far in this one, Brian. Perhaps one of the races we expected it might go single file for, should we say, ease of concentration for the drivers, but they've largely stayed too wide with that multi-groove facet really working in this one. We've truly seen a far more three-dimensional race than we have previously at this track.
Yeah, absolutely. And I will say I've been pleasantly surprised with how well the inside line has held up. I really thought as the tires wore on that these drivers would not be able to have the grip to run down there like they have, but so far it's been very competitive. So a very nice surprise to see out of these guys being able to hold it down there and still run fast. And you see Scott Warren, I think he's committed to that yellow line because he's had a couple of opportunities to jump up to the outside line and take control, and he has chose to stay on the bottom of the racetrack every single time he's had that opportunity. I don't think you're going to see him come off that bottom unless he absolutely has to, and it's been working for him so far as he's been up in the top 5 pretty much since the drop of the green. He did start back in 13th, but he worked his way to the front very quickly, and he has not looked back since. He's been up here battling for the race lead with a couple of these playoff contenders that are trying to win the championship. He's making a statement that he might be one of those contenders next season.
Certainly could be with the way this is playing out, and of those contenders, let's not forget who's had the most chances so far. That's Rodney Wofford. He's been the one that's finished second. He's been the highest finisher of all our playoff contenders. Nobody so far in this final 6 has won before. That's very important to remember. This will be a big win for whoever pulls this one. And right now, Wofford has the pedigree.
Oh, absolutely, he does. I mean, his results speak for himself. He's been in every single playoff that this series has had. That in its own is extremely impressive when you consider the amount of talent that is in this series every single season. To be able to stick it through and make your way into the playoffs with all the different people that have been in this series, that's very impressive. And to be able to show speed and get to a second place finish like he has, you definitely have to believe out of these 6 drivers or 5 that are here tonight that he stands the best chance. You don't want to count the others out though, because as we all know, Superspeedway racing is completely unpredictable and anything can happen at any given time. But you see right now he's doing what we expect him to do. He's leading this race. He's holding off Jorgensen and Chris Passini, which are 2 of his adversaries for this championship, and he's doing exactly what he needs to do.
Absolutely is doing exactly what he has to do in this one, and Well, as things will go forwards, this is definitely getting a bit more condensed, like you mentioned, Brian, at the front. Traffic packing up here. Wofford on the top side. Jorgensen Jr. behind him. Bassini, Flag, Chaburko, 41 back there. Pilland, Corey Henry in the 12. Low side is there. Scott Warren, Andrew Berger, Justin Levine. We have Ray Renard second, Dana Osborne, and the 3 of Paul Savant. And just behind him, the 54 of Brandon Cruz Monsivice. He's back there in 14th. So our top 14 drivers in this front pack here, which is just not broken up. Brian has stayed close together, stayed very organised, occasionally fans out a little bit. That middle groove is incredibly quick here.
Yeah, absolutely. They have been able to hold up tremendously through this race, and they've done it with few cars, and they've done it with many cars. They've been able to make the outside line work with as few as 3 cars, and they've also been able to really carry some speed by having 7 or 8 cars. But you see Wofford now, he slices to the bottom of the racetrack to take control of the inside line, jumps ahead of Scott Warren. Now is when we're going to see if he's going to take another opportunity to go to the outside line. He has the opportunity. He was clear. Now he's not. Jorgensen now starts carrying that momentum to the outside. He's going to try to challenge Wofford for the race lead as they cross the stripe. He's got a big push from Chris Bassini, but it's not going to be enough to get there. Wofford holds on as they head to 1. Now Jorgensen gets a great run through the middle of the corner, and he is door-to-door with the race leader as they come off 2.
Certainly is, and well, we'll quickly find out who's in that race lead. It's going to be a tough one to really nail this one down, because right now it's been very equal between the 7 and the 88. Wofford and Junior just staying neck and neck there. Not really being pushed by the 1 and the 76 very hard here, Brian, but they are keeping that distance between them. One line will pull ahead, the other one will come back. It'll swap around and it will return to the status quo. Lap 22 here. Pitting could be any time between now and about 4 laps. These guys are definitely trying to find out who they want to be around, and no one's going to want to stay on the top side for much longer, so we'll start to see cars dropping down single file running so they can get to pit road.
Yeah, absolutely, and this is where, if this field is going to thin out, we're going to see it, because you may see some drivers that just don't get on the pit road as quickly as others, or you might see some mistakes. This is where it's all going to be very important, especially for our playoff contenders, to not make a mistake coming on the pit road under green. It's so critical at the restrictor plate tracks to have a clean pit stop, because you cannot come out of pit road by yourself and expect to be able to keep pace with the other cars. No, just because of the draft. At other tracks, if you lose a second on pit road, yeah, you lose a little bit of track position. You can make it up on your own because you don't have to worry about the draft. Here, you can't make it up on your own, so you have to have a partner, and you cannot make any mistakes when it comes time to make that stop.
Absolutely not. And with this one, and especially the tire sliding, this is something we brought up a moment ago. I'd like to touch a little bit more depth, Brian. The new changes to time will mean that if you slide those tires, you lock them up. Flat spots, no, but temperature is tracked differently now, and that will be retained, so grip will be very much harmed. And if you're not taking 4 tires on the stop, sliding those tires on the way into pit road will be of absolute utmost importance. These guys will have to do their best to not lock up, which is something they've never had to really think about in the past.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's something that these drivers are going to have to be very careful about, because with this older surface, even though the grip hasn't really fallen off like we've seen in years past or in recent races here, if you have that issue where you slide the tires and you take some of that grip away, it absolutely will hurt the driving of the car. And on a track that is as bumpy as this, that's the last thing you want, is a significant amount of grip lost, especially on a track where it's already going to beat you to death as it is. And we see Jorgensen now, he gets to the bottom of the racetrack. He got a big push from Chris Bassini, jumps to the bottom in front of Wofford, now takes control of the inside line. We're starting to see, as you mentioned, Rachel, these drivers trying to get to the bottom to try to set themselves up for when it's time to come to pit road. We only have about 4 cars out on the outside line right now. That line has faded drastically over the last couple of laps.
Really has, and this is guys trying to get themselves onto that low side so they have the opportunity to go to pit road when they choose to, not when they're allowed to by the bottom lane moving up. One car to keep an eye on there, the 22 car, that Ford Fusion. Oh, Brandon Chaburko moving around about his customary, as he always does, from top to bottom wherever he feels like, as Bassini drops low, leaving just 3 of them on the top side. Pilland, Chaburko and Flag, the only cars left at Pi. You can tell they're getting ready to come down pit road. Lap 26 here. Should be any time now. We'll see cars starting to head down onto pit lane. Who will come when? That is a question. Not this time by, though, for anyone in your field.
Yeah, absolutely. Just waiting to see which drivers are going to make that move first. And the other tricky part about green flag pit stops here at Daytona is not getting on the brakes too soon while you're still on the racing surface, because that can cause a big mess coming on the pit road if you're ahead of a few cars and you don't signal properly, or you get on the brakes too early and the drivers behind you don't realize it. It could present a big issue. So there's a lot that's about to happen as these guys get ready for green flag pit stops. So many things can go wrong, and you just have to be perfect when it comes to pit stops at Superspeedway tracks.
Absolutely, it's all about timing. It's all about leaving with your friends too, not necessarily having a far better stop. As here they come, the first group will dive down onto pit road. Carefully does it, boys. 3 wide across the entrance to pit road. A bit of a wiggle by the 22 of Chaburko. The 88 makes it in nicely. Now, as we have the vast majority of your field heading in one group here. Wofford into his box. Chaburko heading to a stop in his box. What are we going to see? We'll keep an eye here on the 88 of Jorgensen Jr. Passini in front of him, Wofford in front of him, and we'll see who comes for what. It's going up for the right side, Jacks. At least 2 fresh Goodyear tyres on that side. Sunoco race fuel, and it's going to be 4 tyres. But some 2 tyre calls from further back, and some big dogs lose some spots as Passini wobbles and kicks a cone. That could be a penalty. A very hectic exit from pit road as the entire field will come off largely together. But the big story there is about 4 cars from further back in your pack here, Brian, took 2 tyres.
Yeah, that was a very surprising call for me, because I saw quite a few of those drivers coming on the pit road slide the tires and lock it up, like we talked about how they were going to be very careful about. Gonna have to wait and see what happens here. This is going to be the first real test to see just how much of a difference that makes as these guys get up to speed. They have a pretty good gap over the rest of the cars that came in and got 4 tires. Mike Thiel was the first driver off pit road. He was the first one off with 2 tires. He's got a little bit of a gap over the guys behind him, Scott Warren, Ray Rittenauer. They are catching him pretty quickly, and I imagine they'll probably go right on by him as they do catch him. And it looks like indeed they're going to do just that. But as the rest of the field gets single file and they start running these guys down, we're going to have to wait and see just how much of a grip difference these guys have here.
Flag and Berger just coming off pit road a lap after the field, and look at them dropping back behind this group as they'll get steamrolled by the main pack of this one coming up alongside them. At the moment, leader was Corey Henry. He's on track there, getting passed by Warren and written out a second there. 61 also coming up to get involved in this one. That's Mike Thiel. He's a lap down at the moment. That doesn't really count. So poor Corey Henry's been dropped somewhat there. We'll take a look back at this main pack that was kind of leading before the pit stops, Brian. Chaburko ahead of Jorg, Passini, and then Levine in that group. They're working their way back towards the front as Corey Henry actually is up front. He was kind of by himself, although he's been picked up by some help from a little further back. Currently there's Warren and written out a second, who had a fantastic stop.
Yeah, absolutely. And Corey Henry, he's got help from that lap car of Mike Thiel. That's going to allow him to stay with the front runners. And he is starting to catch back up to them, which will give them a 4-car pack. The problem is the pack behind them has already started to catch up to them and has got their draft and will most certainly be there within the next lap or so, as Chaburko is leading that charge, and he is carrying a ton of steam. And it'd be interesting to see where he goes with that steam when they finally get there. Is he going to stay in line behind these drivers, or is he going to try to slide to the outside line and bring some help with him and see if he can't get up there and try to challenge for the race lead? They're only about a lap or so away from catching them, and they are carrying a ton of speed. Actually, at this rate, they might be there in about a half a lap. They are running these guys down in a hurry.
Yeah, they certainly are, of course, as this one is progressing very rapidly for what we've seen so far. First pit cycle is down here in the Superspeedway Cup Series. We're going to take a quick pit stop for ourselves. You can join us again in just a few moments' time.
ready. Going green. Green, green, green.
Well, here it is as we go to commercial. Of course, the luck strikes us here in LSRTV as the first wreck we've had of the race will strike us on lap 34. Murphy's Law says when we're not watching, something will go wrong. And you know what? It went wrong at the very front. Jorgensen Jr. and Chaburko. And once again, Chaburko doing nothing in particular wrong here, Brian. Just like last week with Rod Flag. Poor Chaburko gets dumped by the 88 of Jorgensen Jr. Slight contact here on this very bumpy surface. Just rubs that bumper the wrong way and wraps him round into traffic. And it does seem as though only he was affected.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was just a weird wreck because there really wasn't a lot of contact, and there was certainly no malice from what Jorgensen did. He was just trying to get on the bumper of Chaburko and give him a push, and it just looked like it was a bumper hook almost. He made contact at just the wrong place, and unfortunately it sent Chaburko around and over top of the pack as he was flipping through the air and then came to a rest on the backstretch there. He does, fortunately for him, have one fast repair, but unfortunately, Rachel, he had to tow that car back to pit road, which means he's going to be sitting there for a couple of laps and will lose a couple of laps as a result of that.
Certainly will. And well, he will certainly have to tow that car as he passed over the top of the entire field, which is something we saw last week from one particular car. And that was, I believe, Seth Merchant, who decided he wanted to also soar like an eagle across the field as pit road will open here at Daytona. Cars coming down for service here. Free pit stop is always nothing to miss. They will want to make sure they will get some service here on those cars. Probably not tyres this time, but fuel up and go for sure. We'll see what the front runners will do in this one. Oh, Jorgensen Jr. slid through his box there as he will come up for tyres. Will certainly lose spots as Levine and Ridnow will come up pit road. Flag also Passini and Berger should get off before him.
Yeah, it looks
Berger
like we
does
had
not, but big loss there by 88.
It looks like we had several drivers either go for two tires or just do a stop and go on that pit stop. There wasn't a lot of laps on the tires from when they came back under green just a handful of laps ago. So I guess some of these drivers felt pretty safe in doing that. I'm trying to see who the first driver off pit road was. It looks like it might have been Dan Harrington unless he elected to stay out. He actually, no, he was on pit road. So yeah, Dan Harrington was your first driver off of pit road to win that race off. And then you have Ray Rittenauer right behind him. Then you have Justin Levine and Corey Henry. Then Rodney Walford is the top five. So a couple of your playoff contenders are a little bit shuffled back now. Going to be interesting to see how they handle being in traffic just a little bit on this next restart.
Certainly will see how they cope with this one because they're in a sticky situation now with regards to how things might have played. Chaburko himself down a car here on his backup machine once he can get back out on track, so that already sees him one lap down at least here and only has one car remaining, so perhaps can't go for it when he needs to later. Everybody else, they have a spare car should things go wrong. So as we're here on lap 36 of 100 under caution number 1 right after pit stops, resetting our field here, bunching everyone up and moving some guys back in the back. Big one of those, of course, being Mark Jorgensen Jr., who messed up his pit stop, slid through his box in an uncharacteristic error down in the 13th spot there, Brian. Out front, though, it's Dan Harrington, Raymond Now second, Justin Levine, Corey Henry, Rodney Wofford, Chris Bassini, Paul Savant, Daniel Osborne, Brandon Cruz Montevice, and Scott Warren, your top 10.
Yeah, absolutely. And back to Jorgensen for a second. That was a big mistake on pit road, but fortunately for him, it really didn't matter because he was going to be moving to the back of the field anyway. He took responsibility for this caution that we are under right now, and when you take responsibility for the caution in this series, they give you an end of longest line penalty that sends you to the back for the next restart. So he was going to the back regardless. You don't want to see those kinds of mistakes on pit road like that, but if you're going to have them, that's the right time to do it in a sense where you pretty much, it doesn't matter, you're going to the back anyway. You have nothing to lose in that moment.
Certainly not in this case anything to lose for them, but still a lot to gain later on in this, and we'll see if they can come back with how things have been playing out. But for now, we are under caution here on 37 of 100. Should be going back to green on 39, and well, the field has been reset, the order has been shuffled, our card deck has been cut. We'll have to see who can get blackjack this time around.
Yeah, absolutely. And we see Jaburko got finished with his toe. He is back on the racetrack and now is trying to catch up to the field. We'll have to wait and see what happens with him, but he is back out there with his fresh car. The problem is he's got to go the next 60-some laps without getting involved in another wreck, because that will essentially end his night because he doesn't have that fast repair anymore. The rest of these drivers, as far as I can tell, have not used it. I'm pretty sure everybody made it through that wreck cleanly and did not have to worry about using their fast repair. So for the rest of these drivers, they can still race pretty chaotic and still have that in their back pocket should we have another wreck.
They absolutely can, and they'll have to be very careful just how they pull this one as time will continue in this race. The field will double up and we'll be getting ready to go back to green flag racing this lap here on 38 on 39. Rittenhouse second, Justin Levine, your leaders for this race, and it'll be Rittenhouse second will take us to the flag here, Brian. There's the lineup behind the pace car. 22 of Jaburko dropping back to the very end, of course, where he is a lap down. Of course, he needs a caution. He will get that back, being the only car one lap down, with Larry Camp the only car to DNF at this point. He is 18 laps down and off the track after early problems and an EOL penalty there for Jorgensen Jr., which he kind of imposes himself with his pit stop mistakes. Feel ready to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Just gonna have to wait and see. We're gonna have to keep an eye on Jorgensen coming from the back as one of our playoff contenders to see how he can do coming through the field. Something we're not used to seeing Jorgensen have to do. He typically qualifies at the front, races at the front, and finishes at the front. So we're gonna have a little bit of an uncharacteristic restart here with him being back there in the back of the field. He's currently being scored in the 14th position. Not terrible considering he could have been a lot further back than that, but certainly still going to be interesting to see how he works his way through the traffic on this restart.
Very much will be. The pace car will head down to pit road now, leaving us in the capable hands of Raven out second. The green flag will fly very quickly here. Green flag back in the air. We're racing again at Daytona, and Jaburko wasting no time, diving already to the top side, looking to make that one 3 wide already. He does indeed. Yeah, my backup car's gone. I'm on my last chance, but we're going to go 3 wide at the start because my name is Brandon Jaburko, and it's no fun otherwise, Brian.
Absolutely, 3 wide and trying to make that work out there. He's got help from Jorgensen from behind already. Jorgensen is getting aggressive, trying to find his way back to the front as quickly as possible. And Jaburko's still 3 wide back there. He's got Andrew Berger and Scott Warren to his inside. The problem is being right up against the wall the way he is with no help, it's not going to work for him. And you see that as he drops back now, as he's going to fall behind Jorgensen, and he's going to have to slot in line, and indeed he does. He was not able to make it work, but it was an impressive restart. It was exciting to watch and see if he could make it happen, but unfortunately it just didn't work out for him, and he's back there now. Meanwhile, at the front though, Ray Rittenauer is hanging on to the race lead as he is controlling that inside line, trying to defend from Justin Levine, who's leading the outside line, with a big push from Rodney Walford and that 7 machine as they come off too.
Certainly is. We'll have to be very careful. He doesn't make any mistakes in this one, but, well, the racing so far has been very, very fair. This has been our first real mistake we've seen so far tonight, and they're trying their best to make sure it doesn't happen again here, but out front, Levine and Rittenauer holding those two lines. Behind them, Henry and Wofford, Savant and Piscini, Pilland, Berger, Monsivice, Osborne, and already Jorgensen Jr. making his way back from his error. He's got past Monsivice, who is a lap down, Chaburko, who is a lap down. And out front, we've seen that top line once again be the pervasive line in this event so far, Brian. The Lows are just not able to really get those runs.
Yeah, absolutely, and you see Wofford is in control once again, and how about this newcomer at the front, Paul Servant? We haven't talked about him at all tonight, other than in the starting grid, and now he has found his way to the front, trying to push Wofford to the race lead, and see if he can't maybe try to challenge for the lead himself. And here comes Ryan Pyland, another one we haven't really talked about hardly at all, and working his way to the front. So a couple of new faces up here, on top of having Ray Rittenauer and Justin Levine. So this whole field has kind of been flipped upside down from what we've been calling all race. And you see Wofford now out front. He has pulled that outside line, as you mentioned, that dominant outside line that we've seen for the majority of the night, able to carry that momentum and take the race lead. But Levine's not going to give up on the inside. He's trying to get the run off the corner, but just doesn't have the help. They are lined up about 7 cars on the outside line to just 3 on the bottom, with Levine, Ray Rittenauer, and Corey Henry down there trying to make it happen.
Yeah, absolutely are trying to make this one happen, but for now, things just, as we said, not moving in the direction they would like to see. So they're going to have to do what they can right now to try and shuffle this order forwards and make something happen. But Savant to the front of the low side. Phyllis, he's been forward so far this chase, and it's good to see him back out front. Wofford at the top. He's been consistently towards the sharp end of this one all night, Brian. Rodney Wofford, we talked about him as the highest finisher of the current, shall we say, playoff contenders that are still in the mix for this one in the first of 3 rounds in his second set. Wofford has been consistently the best and the most, shall we say, average, highest position in this race of all the drivers. He's got to be one to keep an eye on.
Oh, absolutely, and he's showing us why he has come so close to winning the championship. He's running up front, he's staying up front, and he is being the most aggressive out of any of our playoff contenders, making moves and being very risky in those moves, and just making sure that he stays out front, and he's doing such a great job right now. But how about Ryan Pyland and Andrew Berger right behind him? They're starting to make some noise here, as Ryan Pyland, he's one of those drivers, he's not in this playoff hunt, he has nothing to lose, and you see it now as he slid to the bottom. He was trying to make a move for the race lead, but Rodney Wofford threw the block and was able to hold on to the race lead, again showing that he is just willing to be as aggressive as he needs to be to stay out front here tonight and not allow these guys to get ahead of him.
Absolutely, and of course we'll see how this one plays, but he is controlling this race very well as Ryan Pilland drops down in front of Savant there on the low side with very little room to spare, bottling up the cars who now shut up behind Wofford and give him a mighty push forwards. Everyone checking up though, as Pilland has to check up with the 24 of Berger, Piscini, and of course Jorgensen Jr. there. More cars on the high side than the low side, and they aren't really making that progress forwards, but this is bottled up quite aggressively once again. These cars are really shuffling around for some breathing room.
Yeah, absolutely. Ryan Pyland went all the way to the wall in 1 and 2, looking for some speed, perhaps looking for the big run off the corner to try to give Wofford a push. It didn't really work in their favor that time, as the inside line actually pulls ahead now with Paul Servant trying to control the field here. He's got the race lead. Chaburko is now starting to work his way up through the field. He is still 1 lap down, but he's going to try to get his lap back the old-fashioned way. He's worked his way up inside the top 6 cars, and he gets a little bit of a wiggle in the triangle right there. Had to check up and gather that car up. He does a good job. Keeps it under control, but how about Chaburko showing that he's still going to be aggressive even though he's a lap down? He's not willing to give an inch to these drivers because he knows what's at stake for him. He's still a playoff contender despite having been involved in a wreck earlier.
Absolutely is, of course, a playoff contender, and one that we'll definitely have to keep an eye on for the duration of this event. But as the clock will continue, they are going to have to be very much aware of their positioning now on the racetrack and what that can mean later on in this event. Because if we have the chance again for more green flag stops, Brian, that's something these guys really, really have to keep their eyes on. Because green flag stops means more chance of this to happen again. We saw this was kind of a product of the new tyres, kind of a product of how the guys had come out on track, and they were all single file when it happened, so it's not the normal time. But at the same time, it does kind of point out how getting close and pushing like they had to try and make up ground. Because they had separated so much, they had to push to make ground. that this left him in a position where pushing on this very bumpy surface is going to be a very risky proposition. Staying as a pack, that's where the opportunity lies, and you've got to stay as a pack. If you have to try and drive aggressively, you run the risk of doing this again.
Oh, absolutely, and that's exactly what we're seeing these drivers do. Although I have seen Jorgensen kind of back off just a little bit. He's up inside the top 10 right now. He's actually in 10th exactly as they cross the stripe right now, but he is not really being as aggressive as I expected him to be, to come up through this field and try to get up back to the race lead where he was at before that happened to him just a couple of laps ago. Perhaps just waiting for that opportunity for green flag pit stops to maybe try to make that ground on pit road and not have to worry about passing these guys under or on the racetrack at full speed. Maybe just trying to do that a different way. But we see Cheburko now. He's on the verge of getting his lap back the old-fashioned way. He's leading the outside line. He's trying to take what essentially is the race lead away from Paul Servant. However, Paul Servant will still be credited as the race leader, but Cheburko now is officially on the tail end of the lead lap. If he gets a caution right now, he would be on the lead lap and be able to pit with the leaders.
Certainly would be. That'd be exactly what he would like, and I don't think they're going to comply with the caution though from Brian Cheburko, as much as that might be effective. We'll see some very aggressive driving from him trying to keep this position should a caution fly. It'll be a major advantage for him, but as the only car a lap down, he's almost guaranteed a lucky dog if there is a caution anyway, so he's pretty much in a win-win position where aggressive defensive driving out front would perhaps not be an advantage. He does pull Wofford and Pillen with him, which means he has a good secure cushion over the pack. If anyone that can really pass him, so out front will stay Brandon Cheburko, a lap down. Oh, I think he's trying to cut up, but Wofford was just about to overlap him. He had to pull down again. Look at him run to get past him. Cheburko freight trained there on the low side. Wofford, Pillen, Piscini, Jorgensen Jr., Berger, and Osborne. The outside line had a real head of steam.
Yeah, absolutely, and Cheburko just did not time that move right, but now Ryan Pylan slides to the bottom of the racetrack. He's going to try to take the lead away from Wofford. He does not have help immediately from behind, as we're waiting to see if Cheburko is going to be able to get to him, and he has finally gotten to him, but Wofford's going to be able to hang on the outside line and be able to defend that challenge. And I just talked about him about a lap and a half ago about how he was hanging back outside the top 10. Mark Jorgensen Jr. all of a sudden has appeared up here racing inside the top 5. He's right behind Chris Piscini, the third car in the outside line. So I guess he might have heard me talking about him and said, I've got to show these guys that's not what I'm doing, because now he's at the front racing for the lead again.
Yeah, absolutely is. And wow, this one's hurting up for sure as we're in the second round of the playoff here. And the guys remaining, of course, will remind you as we do approach the halfway point in this race. The guys remaining: Cheburko, Henry, Jorgensen Jr., Piscini, Altmans, and Wofford. You know what? I think as we talk about those guys, it's time for the LSRTV mid-race break here. As we cross the halfway point of tonight's race, let's take a look at our iRacing midway race break. Brought to you by iRacing, the leading online racing simulation developed from the beginning as a centralized racing and competition service. iRacing organizes, hosts, and officiates races on virtual tracks all around the world. In the fast-paced world of esports, iRacing is a one-stop shop for online racing, with officially sanctioned racing from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, World of Outlaws, and more. How are things going so far? That is the question, as we might have just had a bit of an issue, as I think Brandon Cheburko has had some problems on the racetrack. We'll deal with that in just a second. Run through your running order as they are right now. Brian, Mark Jorgensen Jr. out front, Rodney Wofford, Andrew Berger, Piscini, Pillen, Servant, Levine written out as second and 8th place. Henry and Warren your top 10. Behind them is Dan Harrington, Brian Chris Monsevice, Mike Field, Rod Flagg, Daniel Osborne, Gary Champion, Brandon Cheburko, Tom Drayling, and Larry Camp in 19th place. First half, only one caution of note, and Jorgensen Jr. spun out the 22 of Cheburko, and it's not going to be his day. He's lost the draft on that lead pack. He will be struggling to keep up at this stage. Lap number 52 here of 100 so far, and this has been strangely a quiet event for us, Brian.
Yeah, absolutely it has, as we've seen, as you mentioned, just one caution But we do want to wrap up that iRacing Midway race break, and as we already said, this has been your iRacing Midway race break. For more information on the wide variety of sim racing possibilities online, visit iRacing.com to sign up today. For a limited time, you can now visit iRacing.com/World of Outlaws and take advantage of some exclusive promo codes and get yourself on iRacing with a 1-year membership for half off, or simply give it a try with a 3-month membership for less than $5. Again, that's iRacing.com/World of Outlaws. They have a lot of amazing content, definitely worth checking out. But back to the action. As you mentioned, Rachel, it's been a very quiet first half, just one caution. We did have a bit of an issue for one of our front runners, or one of the lead cars, right as we were doing the midway race break. That was Dana Osborne. He had a blown motor right as we were starting that. He did have the reset. He was able to get a fresh motor and get back out there. The problem is he's 1 lap down, and he is not in the draft. He's going to be riding around by himself, and without a caution, he's going to lose multiple laps. We're going to have to keep an eye on him to see what happens and see if he can get back into it.
Yes, absolutely will, and that's, of course, have the position we have right now. Of course, 24 out front, Passini up there too. Jorgensen Jr. in the second spot with behind him Berger and Pilland. Rittenhouse the second back there as well, and Savant also holding on to this front group. 56 here of 100 at Daytona. Looking set to head towards our second set of green flag stops. In this one, we'll take a look at the lap counts. And when we had that restart there, Brian, that was on 38. So, I think by my math, we're looking for 74 perhaps. We'll see pit stops.
Yeah, we're still 15 to 20 laps or so from that pit stop, and I imagine we're going to see these drivers try to stretch it as far as they can on this run so that they can try to make it to the end with just that one stop. We saw them in the first run go 27 laps before any of them ducked to pit road, and by that math, they need to make it to at least lap 73 without coming to pit road in order to make it to the end without having to come yet again. So I don't think you'll see anybody try to come in early. If anything, you're going to see everybody run these cars to the brink of being out of gas before they come in. That way they know they can make it to the end of this race without having to worry about it.
Certainly will do, of course, as fuel should be good to the end after that point. So we are really in a window here, Brian, like you mentioned, where we are on that one more stop territory, and it should see them home, which is, of course, a very nice situation to be in. And we've seen the cars can make it to the end of a cycle. It just depends on whether we make it through this next cycle, of course. Our usual mantra we have is that should we make it to a green flag stop, the field spreads out, and typically you see less opportunity for caution as Brandon Chaburko blows his motor. No, it's Jorgensen Jr. blows his motor. We'll get a replay of what just happened there, but Mark Jorgensen Jr.'s 88 car, let's go here on lap number 58 in the middle of the pack. He wasn't pushing cars in front of him. Blows the engine, very nearly collected by the 24 of Berger, who very narrowly ducks out of the way. Incredible driving from him. But that's how you blow your motor in the middle of a pack of drivers and do not cause the big one. My gosh, that was close.
Yeah, that was absolutely insane. Incredible driving by all the drivers around and behind Jorgensen to not panic and not get caught up in something that could have been a lot bigger than it was. And kudos to Jorgensen for realizing what happened and trying to get out of the way as quickly as he did. Just absolutely incredible. It did sort or kind of spread this field out just a little bit, though, as we only have 5 cars at the front of the pack now. They are still running side by side, but there's 2 more behind them, Scott Warren and Andrew Berger. They're trying to catch back up, and then you have Ryan Pineland, Corey Henry, and Brandon Cruz-Montevideo that are also trying to catch up, but right now it's just a 5-car battle at the front for the race lead that's currently being led by Justin Levine, and now we see for the first time here tonight, other than when they were coming to pit stops, Rachel, we've got a little bit of single-file racing going on as the entire field pretty much through the top 10 has gotten single file. Of course, the guys on the back half of that top 10 are just trying to catch up, but the leaders have realized they have an opportunity to try to get away, and if they can stay single file, they might just be able to pull that off. However, these guys behind them are catching up pretty quickly.
They certainly are. Mark Jorgensen Jr. has made it back to pit road with his blown motor, so there's a good chance he'll pick up that backup, only lose 1 lap and be able to continue. But with Osborne and Chaburko down a lap, both of whom are in the same pack actually in this one. Osborne there racing pretty much just ahead of Jaburka. They're fighting for that lucky dog spot in this one behind Rod Flag and the 61 car of Mike Thiel in his second group, a little bit further back from your leaders. This will be of critical importance to whether they can get the timing they need. Out front though with their lead group, they're all single file here, kind of heading into that territory, getting ready for green flag stops in about 10 to 12 laps. Although we do see a bit of a charge forming on the outside. It's the 76 of Scott Warren, Andrew Berger, the 41 of Pilland, Henry possibly, and Monsivice looking to make a big run here on the outside. And we're not going to see Jorgensen Jr. win this race potentially unless we get a caution soon.
Well, and for Mark Jorgensen Jr., a big update for the number 88. He has pulled that car behind the wall and has called it a night. He has decided to retire. So for one of our playoff contenders, the night has ended early for him, and he is certainly going to take a big hit in his hopes to win this championship if he wants to get the job done here in the next two races. He's going to have his work cut out for him. We're still waiting to see if Jaburko can catch a lucky break to get back on the lead lap as well. That's another one of our playoff contenders that is in trouble at this point as we approach the last stage of this race. Definitely got to keep an eye on him as well, but a couple of big issues for two major hitters has taken them and put them in a bad spot heading to the next two races for the championship. However, back at the front of the field, here comes Andrew Berger, and he has taken the race lead away from that number 76 of Scott Warren to the point, I believe, for the first time here tonight. Correct me if I'm wrong, Rachel, but I don't think we've seen that 24 machine out front tonight.
I think you would be correct in that front, Brian, as out front, Scott Warren, no longer the leader. It's definitely the car of Andrew Berger, the 24 machine. Behind him, that is, of course, Warren, Levine, the 41 of Pilland, Paul Savant, Chris Bassini. So it's actually sixth place before we get to any of our playoff drivers. Then we have Bassini, we have Wofford, we have Henry, all under an umbrella there. But so far, down a lap, our Chaburko, down a lap is Jorgensen Jr. That is going to be a very important thing to see. Jorgensen Jr. has retired, like he said. Chaburko still running. He's a lap down, fighting with Daniel Osborne for that spot of the lucky dog position. We really are in a very interesting spot with this because this has left us perhaps with a lot to play for at this stage. As we mentioned, of course, Altmans isn't here. Jorgensen Jr. won't finish. So that's two of our six who are not going to score points in this race, leaving them in very critical positions of must-win races. Of the four we have, well, one of them's down a lap, and three of them running in your front pack have a shot at this one. We're going to see a very exciting finish.
Yeah, absolutely. And if I'm Chris Bassini, if I am Corey Henry, or if I'm Rodney Walford, I'm paying close attention to what's going on with these other drivers. And I'm now thinking to myself, I don't want anything bad to happen to me. I need to keep myself clean for the last 35 laps of this race. And it looks like in a twist, we're going to see some of these drivers coming to pit road right now as Ryan Pylan leads the charge in. He's got one right behind him, Ray Rittenauer, coming to pit road. And how about all three of our playoff contenders, Chris Bassini, Rodney Walford, and Corey Henry, all follow these guys to pit road? I have to admit, I'm a little surprised by this. I'm pretty sure they could have went about another 10 laps or so, which would have put them in a position to make it to the end without having to come in again. Pitting now, they're going to have to come at least one more time for a stop and go just to make sure they can make it to the end without running out of gas.
Absolutely, this is not one-stop territory they are in right now, so they've broken this segment up, perhaps knowing they'd have to come again. Maybe they've broken it up so they will have to go a bit more evenly, perhaps, as out will come Bassini and Wofford as a pair, a little bit better off right here than some of the other cars. Henry on his own, that could be a problem for him, as a few others will come by, possibly this time by. We'll look at that front group again, as it is the 61, the 10 coming down pit road, as will, I think, the 682 car behind them, of course, that's Dan Harrington. Round, though, will go the cars of Osborne and Chaburko.
Yeah, and actually race leader Andrew Berger is on pit road with the rest of his pack that he was racing with. Scott Warren, Justin Levine, they've all come down as well. Brandon Cruz Monteveas was on pit road with them as well. Paul Servant, Justin Levine were the first two off of pit road in this round of pit stops. and it looks like they're pretty spread out right now, so they're going to have their work cut out for them to get bunched back up and get the draft going. You see Paul Servant trying to catch up and see if he can't make some ground on these guys, and Ryan Pylan's got an issue. He's down in the grass almost to a complete stop in the middle of 1 and 2. Not sure what's going on with him, but he's having an issue as well. So he's actually towed that car to pit road now, but very interesting to see how this works out. As you see Paul Servant and Justin Levine, looks like they're going to be the race leaders when it's all said and done. Servant was able to catch up and is now drafting with that number 17 machine of Justin Levine, and they've got a pretty hefty gap over the next car back to them. That's Andrew Berger, who has not really hooked up with anybody yet. He's got Scott Warren behind him, but they're not really tightly packed to where they're drafting the way the two leaders are. If they don't get bunched up soon, they're going to have a hard time catching back up to these guys.
Yeah, they absolutely are, and they'll have to make sure this one goes the way they need to, because we've seen the product of having to push so far tonight. That's what put Brandon Chaburko in the wall the first time, so having to push is not a great position to find yourself in this race. Just up ahead of this group, it's the 76 of Warren and Berger. They're hooked together as well quite nicely. Levine and Savant out front. This could produce a calm end to the race for us with Levine and Savant up front, or it could produce some more apparent wrecking as these guys try and catch up to each other as they get past Monsivice. You'll see the 7 and the 1 shooting past. Gonna go to try and shoot past the 24 and the 76 as well, and try and shoot some slingshot momentum on the route towards your leaders. If this 5 should hook up in a train, there's absolutely every reason they'll catch the 2 out front, so perhaps a safer option would be just to ride with this group and reel them in right here, Brian.
Yeah, well, it looks like they're still going to be able to do that because they're running about 7 miles an hour faster than the 2 drivers in front of them, and at that rate, they'll catch them pretty quickly. One thing I do want to note on is one of our playoff contenders. We talked about it when he was coming off pit road, and that's Corey Henry. He had a slow stop, did not get off pit road with the rest of the drivers that he came to pit road with. He is currently riding out there with no draft, and he has fallen 7.6 seconds behind all of these drivers, and with no help, he's going to need a caution if he wants to get back into this battle and try to give himself an opportunity to race for the lead and potentially for the championship. So he's in a bad spot unless he can catch a lucky break with a caution, which is certainly still possible with 31 laps remaining in this race, as we will see these guys get pretty aggressive the closer we get to the end of this thing. And now we are seeing, Rachel, these cars are starting to catch up to the race leaders. Andrew Berger has cut that gap down from 2 seconds to just over a second now as they approach lap 70.
Very much so at this point, as lap 70 does loom for us on the horizon here. Everyone's been down pit road now. We'll see them probably one more time for sure in this race tonight. As out front, Levine, Savant, Berger, Warren and Wofford are top 5. Monsivice, Bassini, Henry, Osborne, Rittenauer second, your top 10. So things have been interesting so far. We've got 12 cars in the lead lap, including Thiel and Flag. The cars lap down. Chaburko, Champion, Harrington, Pilland. They are still running with a lap down. Everybody else off the track, including Larry Camp, Tom Dryling, and Mark Jorgensen Jr. Having blown a motor in surprising circumstances tonight, Brian. One we didn't really anticipate. He wasn't pushing too hard, and somehow that motor popped. But we'll go back to the lead real quick because Justin Levine and Paul Savant, that gap's been closed down already. They've been jumped upon by a horde of angry race cars, including Wofford, Bassini, Berger, Warren, and Monsivice.
Yeah, absolutely, and once again, Rodney Walford is leading that charge. He's on the outside line. He's showing how aggressive he wants to be, and he's trying to get back to the race lead. Had a little bit of a slow stop on pit road, lost some time to these drivers, but with the help of the draft, he's been able to make it all back up, and now is battling closer and closer to the race lead. He's side by side with Paul Servant as they head down the back straightaway, trying to close in on the race leaders. And you can see he's carrying that momentum in the middle of the corner, getting a pretty good run on the outside line, and now gets to the outside of our race leader, trying to challenge for the lead as they come to the stripe. Can he get there to lead this lap? The answer is going to be no. Justin Levine's going to hang on to lead that lap there. But here comes Wofford again, trying to make that charge. He's got a big push from Bassini as they head to 1.
Certainly does have a huge run in this situation, as they'll do what they can to try and shuffle this lead between them. Out front, Levine and Wofford. now in a very interesting position to fight. We know the outside can be stronger, but will 4 cars in the bottom make a difference here as the bottom almost migrates to the middle to the top? Could shake around how things. Oh, crashing into turn number 3. Problems, and the only car to survive that will be the 7 of Rodney Warford. Somehow, Monster Vice doesn't even get out of jail free in that one. He looked fine, but got a taste of wall as everybody else crashes. We'll get you a replay of what exactly went wrong in this one, and it involves the 17 of Justin Levine, contact from behind from the 3 of Paul Savant. Savant tags his quarter, turns him into Passini. Those 2 cars turn across the track and nowhere no one can go. Drama on the high banks of Daytona.
Yeah, absolutely, and that was another very similar situation to our first caution, just a bump draft gone wrong. Paul Servant was trying to give the 17 a push. He just got on the right rear of that car and hooked him around into the outside wall and into that outside line, which, as you saw, led to a pretty big wreck. Fortunately for, I'm pretty sure, all of these drivers, they have not used their 1 reset, and they will be able to come to pit road, get a brand new car, and go out here and try to tear it up again in the last 25 laps of this thing.
Yeah, they certainly will. Of course, this does mean now we're going to see a lot of guys wait a lap or 2 and come down pit road. We'll see people brimming the tank on the last couple of laps of the caution here. Whilst we're under yellow flag conditions, we're going to step away for a time tonight, and then you'll get green flag coverage all the way to the end of this one, folks. So stick with us. We'll be right back.
When I sat in the car, you always wonder, what's it going to feel like? It was my first time driving a mid-engine GT car. My thoughts were, wow, this is really good for our first time in a car. I was really surprised by it. You're sitting low, you got the A-pillars at steep angles, the windshields at steep angles, you can see the fender flares. I think we have a chance to win. Everything's got to go right, but I think we have a car that can win the race or be on the podium. But can you imagine how cool that would be to go back 50 years later to the year and do it?
Welcome back here to the Superspeedway Cup Series on LSRTV. Rachel Whiteford and Brian Macklin bringing the action as we are under caution here on lap 75 of 100 in the second round of playoffs here. Brian, we just had a pretty big one, in fact the biggest one of the night, involving about 6 of our top cars out front right now. Dana Osborne, Raven out second, Rodney Warford, Berger and Passini. But the only car to escape from that pack of death was Rodney Warford.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about having a lucky horseshoe. He's got one in that car here tonight because he got away by the hair of his butt on that one, because that was just so crazy and very close to collecting him along with the rest of those drivers. I'll tell you two drivers that really made out like a bandit on this though. Dana Osborne, he had that blown motor, had to use his reset to get back out there and get back into this race. He was a lap down. He elected to stay out when all these other drivers came to pit road. He was able to get his lap back and is now sitting as the race leader. And then the other driver I wanted to talk about was one of our playoff contenders, and that's Brandon Shaburko. Went a lap down after having that early wreck, which brought out our first caution of the night. He's been riding around since that happened, a lap down, and just hanging around waiting for this opportunity. He too stayed out when the leaders came to pit road, got his lap back, and then the caution came out, and now he sits back in 14th. But he's on the lead lap with an opportunity to try to race for the lead, possibly for the win in this last 25 laps.
Certainly is at this stage, and that's one thing we'll keep our eyes on for the race so far. 25 laps to go in this one, and we should, having fueled up at this stage, run to the end here with no interruptions of this race. At this time, might be a bit early to ask, but who are your predictions?
Well, I want to go with the driver who may not be defending his championship here tonight, but is the four-time champion of this series. And that's Andrew Berger. He fell out of the playoff contention last week and is not racing for the championship this season. But that, to me, gives him the opportunity to go up here and try to win this race. He has nothing to lose. He can race as aggressively as he would like, and it doesn't matter here. So he can definitely challenge these guys and be more aggressive than the rest of the guys that are racing for the championship.
Certainly can, and we will be heading back to Green Flag Racing, this time by here on the Speedway. We've had cars blow up so far. I believe the 8 also blew a motor early in the race, so that'll be something to keep an eye on. A couple of cars blowing motors here today without getting too close to the front of this one. We'll be very keen to see what happens. Dino Osborne will lead the pack as Green Flag will fly here. Rearing out second on the outside. Behind them, Wofford, Berger, Passini, Levine, Henry, and Monsivice. Into turn 1 we will go on lap 77.
And Dana Osborne controlling that inside line as they get up to speed. It takes them about a lap and a half to get fully up to speed here as they work their way around the track. And I'm seeing a bit of an issue. The 7 is down on the apron. Rodney Walford, I think that horseshoe might have finally fell out of that car or something, because he's down on the apron and way off the pace down the back straightaway. He's starting to get up to speed now. Not sure what happened, but Walford out of the main pack and well behind the draft, and without the help of a caution, one of our playoff contenders, another one of our playoff contenders, having a big moment here in the late stages of this race.
Not a big fan of, well, computer-related comments when it comes to sim racing, but I often find it breaks the immersion. It does seem, though, as we're 3 wide up at the front there on the outside. Oh, big sparks off the track from Passini's car as the 8-7 goes 3 wide on the outside, going backwards in a hurry. But I think it looks almost as though we had a bit of desync there between the 7 of Wofford in the pack. He dropped the apron, seeing cars blink out, and when he rejoined, he was behind them as the 1 also has a problem and starts to have issues. He goes a little transparent. He's in the middle of the 24. I'd back out of there if I were you, Andrew Berger, as I think we could be having some issues as the cars will pile up again on lap 78.
And Andrew
Replay will come up. I said replay will come up, but as I think you're about to say there, I think we saw that one coming as the 61 turned the 24, and pretty much everyone played Conkers. We might have been having a few little issues on the server there, I think.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering if that's what happened to Wofford on that restart, because he just all of a sudden disappeared, and when he came back, he was on the apron and well off the pace, and then we saw Passini starting to have issues, and that was just a big chain reaction thing there. it all started with Piscini having his issues on the backstretch with the connection. Looks like he tried to get out of the way. He pulled up to the outside line to try to get out of the way, but unfortunately just was not able to get out of the way quick enough, and it just led to a stack up where we saw the 61 machine turn Andrew Berger around, which also caught Brandon Cruz Monteveas. Looks like Scott Warren got a piece of it. It also looks like Dan Harrington might have gotten a small piece of it. Paul Servant, I'm looking to see, but I think he might have made it through cleanly. He was back there riding around with Chaburko, and when that happened, they both got on the brakes. Chaburko actually got turned by Paul Servant and got turned up into the wall. And so all that riding around for Chaburko, trying to get back on the lead lap, it ends up being all for naught because that car is destroyed here at the end of this thing.
Certainly is, unfortunately, right now, and that will be a major problem for them. The running order now, as a few of those cars are out, they've used backups there, so there's will be a few of these guys out of this one, including Brandon Cruz Montevice, I believe, possibly Paul Savant, Pilland, and one or two others. Right now, it will be Osborne, Henry, Levine, Piscini flag, champion Warren Berger, who is on pit road now with repairs. Chaburko back on the lap in 9th, though could have a run here for the win in the dying 20 laps of this race. Lap 80 in the books of 100 tonight, and we've shaken things up. We thought perhaps Chaburko, with the field spread out, would be out of the running order here, Brian. Maybe not likely to take a win as his engine blows. Oh my gosh, Chaburko, who we just saw back in the running with no particular issue, it just seems exploded. So Brandon Chaburko, his car has just popped. In fact, it's been popped for quite a while, I would think, looking at the replay there. But Brandon Chaburko's backup car is destroyed, so that's him well and truly out of this one. We will see one of our other drivers win. Who that is, it depends. This saved Rodney Wolford, of course, who dropped back on that restart. He can get back up to speed here and get with the pack. There's 3, maybe 2 cars left who I think could take this one from the playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a couple of our contenders that are having some big issues now, with Chaburko having his issue, and of course Mark Jorgensen had an issue earlier in the race. We don't have Jason Altmans here tonight, so that's 3 of the 6 that have had some pretty big issues. We had a scary moment for Chris Piscini as he was having some big issues with his connection that could have led to him being caught up in a wreck that could have hurt his chances of being in this playoff hunt as well. And then we also have seen Rodney Walford. He had a scary moment as well when on that restart had his connection issues. He had to go, it looks like, to the back just to avoid causing a wreck. He gets very lucky that this caution turned out the way it did for him, because he's not going to lose all that track position and be out of the draft. When they go back green, he's going to be able to get up to speed and be with these guys and have an opportunity to get back up there and challenge and show the aggressiveness that we've seen him have all night long up to this point.
Yeah, certainly will, and that will be a very important factor for him, of course. He wants the opportunity to do what he needs to do in this race, and he should have just that, depending on how this goes towards the end. But let's not forget, a lot can go wrong very quickly. And tonight, we've seen some very good examples of that happening. So you've got to be careful in how this one's playing out. There's still so many things that can happen. This race is not done until the final checkered flag flies.
Oh, absolutely not. With 20 laps to go, and now that it has gotten to the point of the race where these guys are going to have to be aggressive, I imagine that these guys will be more aggressive than they've been all night long. Business is certainly about to pick up, and for your basically 3 remaining playoff contenders, you've got to be very careful not to get caught up in something that could potentially take you out of contention moving forward in this race.
Could not have said it better myself at this stage. Huge problems so far for this one, so we've really managed to filter down this field dramatically. Dino Osborne, of course, out front on their return to the series. It'll be interesting to see if they can get themselves back into a winning position for this one. Corey Henry, second place. This could be an opportunity for Corey Henry. Chris Bassini also with opportunities in this race. Chaburko's car, yeah, a bit smoking like a Jamaican with a particular penchant for fun things. The 22 will be heading to pit road, we think. Maybe, maybe not. No, Brandon Chaburko just wants to stay out and deploy James Bond smoke screens across the racetrack, so we're not going to see that one until that explodes. Rodney Wolford still in contention, but I really think the eyes here have to be, Brian, on Henry and Piscini.
Yeah, absolutely. You've got to watch these guys and see what happens with them, and see how they handle the last stage of this race. Certainly, they have an opportunity to challenge and get a win that would certainly gap them over the rest of these guys going into the next two races. When you look at who's had issues with Jorgensen having his issues, and of course, again, Jason Altman's not being here, and Chaburko having his issues, you have an opportunity to gap yourself over these guys and give yourself an advantage moving into the next two races. For Corey Henry, Chris Passini, and Rodney Walford, this is a big opportunity they need to take advantage of.
Absolutely do, and we'll see that happening, of course, over the next few laps here. It will be lap 82. We go back to green. We'll have less than 20 laps to the end of this one, and we'll see who can make it to the front in this. Who will have the opportunity to take home a win? Will it be a playoff driver? Will it not? That's the question. But there are certainly, as things stand, 3 drivers who will benefit hugely from this race in terms of points for the playoffs. The 12, the 1, and the 7. We'll just have to see where they finish in the final order. Heading through turns 3 and 4 now. Coming out of turn 4. Pace car will pull off forward. It's hopefully the last time, Brian. And the green flag will fly.
Yeah, absolutely. The green flag is about to fly. We're going to go back racing with 18 laps remaining on the board. Dana Osborne is your race leader. Control car goes to pit road. We're back under green here at Daytona. Corey Henry gets an incredible restart. He's actually going to jump ahead of Dana Osborne and try to take the race lead as they head to turn 1. He's got Chris Passini right behind him, who's trying to give him the push that he needs to get out in front and try to control this thing. However, they're the only 2 on the outside line. Everybody else has went to the bottom. And as they work through 1 and 2, Dana Osborne has the advantage. He's got a big push from Justin Levine, who's also getting a big push from Rod Flagg. And it's now a drag race down the back straightaway as they head to 3.
It certainly is a drag race as they'll head down towards third corner, as you mentioned. Round will come, and we'll see if this can be a result they would like. Dana Osborne still in a great spot there for a chance to win this one. Behind him is Justin Levine, Rod Flagg up there too. Narrowly losing out from the playoff spots in the first round of 3 races. Up top though, it's 3 playoff drivers here, Brian. We've got the 12, the 1, and the 7. They're hooking up and they're going forwards. With them, the 76 and Warren. Those 4 cars have been bad fast tonight so far.
Absolutely, they have, and they're showing it once again. Corey Henry, though, is the one trying to lead the charge here. He's trying to take that race lead away from Dana Osborne. Gets an absolutely incredible run on the back straightaway here, trying to take that race lead away. Osborne now pins that car to the bottom of the racetrack, trying to hold him off. And Justin Levine, who has shown a tremendous amount of speed for most of this night, is too trying to take the race lead away. But he's not got anywhere to go at this point as he's having to ride behind these guys. Look at Corey Henry, though, gets a great run. He leads at the stripe, and he's bringing Chris Passini with him.
Certainly is there as they'll come round here onto 85 through 1 and 2 onto the backstretch. They'll come out front. It's Osborne and Henry out front. This 2 wide racing's been the same deal all day long here, Brian. We really have seen a real change with what they've done to this latest build. The racing's so much closer on this track, and that mid lane has been so dominant.
Absolutely, and we're seeing it here as now you see Corey Henry and Chris Passini beginning to edge ahead, bringing Walford and Scott Warren with them on this outside line. And Corey Henry has gotten clear to the line. If he chooses to go, he's going to stay out there and keep that push from Passini. But now the question has to be, inside the last 15 laps, how faithful are you to your adversaries in this championship battle? Rachel, if you're racing with these guys, how long do you ride behind Corey Henry before you decide you want to make that move and try to shuffle him back? Are you going to wait till 5 to go? Or are you going to wait till the white flag? Or are you going to try to make that move now? It's a very interesting decision for these drivers at this point, trying to make that move and try to beat your competitor for the championship.
Absolutely is. And they'll need to decide when they do that, when is best and when gives the chance of no reply, which is the time you want, of course. Out front, Henry and Passini. What for the high side with Warren. Osborne now back in what is 4th place here. Will that last for long as 2 cars on the outside will make a big headway. Show just how dominant that middle line is. The 2 cars can push themselves forwards like this. Will Rod Flag move up to join him? Will he get involved? Levine drifting around in the back of this group. Just behind them, it's Berger and it's Pilland in the 41 and the 24. As we're coming up on lap 90, and this one's been a very quick race, even with the cautions we've seen so far. Brian, this has been a very fast event tonight. About 30 minutes we're looking like quicker than we've seen in the past. But at the same time, small field, small wrecks, not quite as dramatic.
Oh, absolutely. When you have the smaller field, you don't typically have the wrecks that you would see if you had a bigger field. But these guys, regardless of that, have put on an incredible show. I've been very surprised, very pleasantly surprised with the amount of side-by-side racing we've seen with this new draft package here that iRacing came out with. It's been very impressive. And now we see Pasini. He made the move to the outside line on Corey Henry. He's going to take the race lead away. Dana Osborne stuck with him, is going to push into the lead, and now Pasini has to make a decision. Does he stay in the outside line or does he move to the bottom? His decision right now is going to be to stay up in front of Osborne. Now you have to wonder, is Dana going to stay behind him or is he going to try to make a move? I thought for a second he was going to make it 3 wide. He decided not to. And Rachel, you have to wonder in the back of Dana's head if he's worried about blowing up another motor. He blew this motor up earlier on in the race, had to use his reset to get a fresh motor and a fresh car, and now you have to wonder if he's concerned that that's going to happen again.
Always a concern in a racer's mind is, will their car make it to the end of the race? Although clean air out front for Osborne should be a good factor in keeping his car in one piece. Dirty air dealing with damaged radiator shouldn't be as much of a problem, of course, as we'll come on to lap 90 this time by. Folks, coverage of this Super Speedway Cup Series is brought to you, of course, by Joel Real Timing, the official timing software of LSRTV. You can get that today at joel-real-timing.com. joel-real-timing.com. You can use what we use to keep track of these races. And this one, I think, Brian, this is going to come down to a lot of timing at the end of this race. Timing of, like you said, when you make that move.
Oh, absolutely. That's going to be the biggest part about this thing, is when you decide to make that move, and when you do it, if you have help to go with you. That's going to be the biggest thing. You have to have help to go with you to make it happen. And how about Rodney Walford? All of a sudden, we get to the last 10 laps of this race. Here comes Walford starting to make some noise. He's right on the back bumper of Chris Pasini, and he is ready to pounce when the time is right. I know he's got the car worth or capable of doing it. He's been out front for a big majority of this race. He's just got to have that opportunity to make that move to get up there and try to take this thing away from these guys.
Certainly could be. Osborne fighting back here on the low side. Not willing to give this one up right now, of course, on his return to the series. The 1 and the 7 on the top side. Still strong with 12 down behind Osborne. Pasini's car not looking quite as fast perhaps as Wofford or Henry's have so far, Brian. That one car, been involved in a few taps and maybe some lingering crinkles.
Yeah, absolutely. He's got a little bit of damage to that car, but it apparently is not hurting his speed at all, as he's staying up here and challenging for the race lead pretty easily. I don't think it's really affected the performance of that car at all. But how about Dana Osborne controlling this inside line now? He's got Corey Henry behind him. They have gotten a little bit of an advantage on these guys right now. Just trying to hang on and try to steal this win away from your playoff contenders. That's what all of these drivers that are up here that are not racing for the championship are trying to do. They just want to play spoiler in this thing, win a race, and show these guys, hey, I've got the speed to do it. I've got the speed to be a contender next season for this championship.
Absolutely do. As 24 gets sideways, we'll try and catch that one for you again, but Andrew Berger, Tokyo drift back there in 3 and 4. Getting on the apron as some light contact actually from Ryan Pilland. We're in the top side and just got jammed in behind the 76 of Warren and squeezed down to the bottom, holds onto it somehow, keeping us caution free at this stage. Drops a lot of positions, but we'll hold on to that car. Best save of the night there by Andrew Berger.
Yeah, absolutely insane. Unfortunately, it's going to knock him out of the drafts, and he's going to have just to ride around here for the last part of this race. But just like you said, a pretty impressive save. He's got Ryan Hyland back there, who is a lap down, that he can draft with, but I don't think you're going to see those two cars be able to get back up and challenge these guys. They're just not going to be able to have the speed that we see the leaders have. How about Corey Henry, though? He took the race lead from Dana Osborne while we were covering that. and he is now in charge, and he's got Dana Osborne, who's searching for a way around him. Osborne goes to the outside line. He's going to try to take that position away. I thought for a second maybe Corey Henry would throw the block. He decides to stay on the bottom of the racetrack, and now Osborne is going to try to get back what he thinks is his. As they come off turn 2, he's got a big charge here with Chris Cassini pushing, trying to give him a shot back to the race lead.
We'll see if Dana can manage that one in this race so far, but I've got to say, that's the first time I've actually seen someone turning right to go left on a super speedway. That's got to be one of the scary experiences we see. As don't forget, you know, the 8, the 1, the 7, and the 12 are all teammates. So this is going to be awkward because 2 of them, 3 of them need to lock into the chase or the playoffs here, and a win will secure you a spot. So 3 teammates all needing to get through. Who decides what? Do they just agree to race this one out?
Well, I think that they're going to race this one out because they know how important it is. At the end of the day, while you have teammates and you're going to work together, when you get down to this point of the race, especially when you're racing for the championship, you can't play teammates anymore. You have to race for yourself. If you're Chris Cassini, if you're Corey Henry, if you're Rodney Wofford, you want to work with your teammates, but at this point, you don't have a teammate. You're out there trying to win the race, trying to secure this championship for yourself. You know you guys have a pretty good shot as a team to win the championship. Now it's about winning it for yourself.
Absolutely, yes. I've just been reminded by our producer, Cisco Scaramuza, that this isn't a win and you're in thing. This is the final 3. So, as it stands, it's a cumulative of all 3 rounds. And right now, Jorgensen Jr., and it looks like... I've forgotten Jason Altman's, sorry, I forgot his name for a moment. Altman's... also Chaburko now, 3 of those cars are going to be in very dire straits if the rest of these guys here, the 12, the 1, and the 7, finish all 3 races. They're out of this.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a situation where they're going to need a lot of help if they're going to catch up to these 3 drivers that are still racing for the race lead right now. Inside the final 4 laps of this thing, though, teammates or not, who's going to get the job done? Dana Osborne is trying to take the race lead away from Corey Henry, but he's going to have his work cut out for him as Corey is fighting hard on the inside line. He's got some help from Justin Levine and Rod Flagg. They are trying to do everything they can on the bottom of the racetrack, but as we've seen most of the night, that outside line has just been the place to be, and for Dana Osborne, it is working out for him in a big way as he's still controlling this race as they head to 3, and now he gets sideways, sent up the track, somehow hangs on to it. I'm not sure what happened. I think it was just a bump draft gone wrong, but Dana got sent way up the racetrack, and I believe he made contact with the outside wall. He's still up the speed, but he is losing the draft, and it doesn't look like he's going to be able to hang on. He's right on that edge right now, Rachel, where he might be able to, but it's going to be pretty difficult.
Certainly will be, of course. I'm not going to show a replay of that one, perhaps, because no contact actually made with the 1 there, Brian. It almost looked as though Dana Osborne got loose and tried to correct it and wobbled and went up the track and didn't have room to save it. But this brings us down to really 3 cars who could be in with a chance here. Of course, Levine up here at the 17 could be in the way to make this one a bit of an upset as the 10 gets a little sideways in 3. But the 12, the 1, and the 7 could be in this one to try and win it. And right now, Corey Henry in a fantastic spot can defend the lines here as we'll go on to 2 to go across the stripe.
2 laps to go here at the Daytona International Speedway. Who's going to get the job done? Scott Ward is trying to play spoiler as well as he's side drafting Justin Levine as they head through 1 and 2. Trying to position himself to make a move, and now here comes Rod Flagg to the outside for the race lead off turn 2. He gets a great run from Justin Levine. They move ahead of Corey Henry and are now going to try to get clear of him as they head to 3. I believe both of these drivers have gotten clear. Now it's up to who wants to make the move. Levine has to stay on the outside line. He did not get clear. Flagg to the bottom of the racetrack as they head to turn 4 for the final time. They're coming to the white flag right here.
This will be it. One more time around this 2.5 mile speedway. 6 cars in it to win it. Who will come across the line next time by? They will win the race. The 10 of Rod Flagg out front with a huge head of steam, but here comes the 17 and the 1. Levine and Piscini. Wofford on the outside. Flagg, Henry, and Warren on the low side. This is it for the win. Rod Flagg down low. Good big run. Will he move up to the top side to defend that line? Is he clear enough to do so? I don't think he is. This will have to be a drag race to the end, and the middle lane has been faster. Levine will lead heading into turn number 3 now, as we have 2 corners to go in this race tonight. Out front still, Rod Flag in his 10 Pontiac Grand Prix. Can Flag do this one tonight? Can Rod Flag take the win at Daytona 2007? And it will be Rod Flag taking the win tonight. Not a playoff driver, but the series organizer in a fantastic race to the line with Justin Levine there. Very close for second place. Corey Henry in 3rd, Chris Bassini in 4th, Scott Warren in 5th. Watford comes home in 6th out of that group. We catch our breath, Ryan. That was a fantastic run to Flag.
What an incredible last 2 laps that was. These guys put on one heck of a show. And how about Rod Flag getting the victory here tonight? He rode around in the middle of the pack for most of the race. Didn't make a whole lot of noise, but when it mattered, he was right where he needed to be. Made the big move with 2 laps to go to take the race lead, and then just played defense all the way to the end. And now he's going to get to come around to the tri-oval and burn it down and celebrate a big victory here at the Daytona International Speedway. Absolutely incredible for Rod.
Certainly was. Rod Flag there across the stripe will burn it down here in his number 10 Pontiac Grand Prix. Flag with an incredible win there at the end. Not in the playoffs, but you know what? There's no better way than to say I may not be still in these playoffs, but I could still win races. Fantastic run there by Rod Flag. Whilst he burns it down and collects that flag from the flag stand, we will go to your final race results. Coming home with the win today, Rod Flag will take the top spot. Justin Levine in 2nd place, Corey Henry in 3rd, Passini in the 4th spot with Scott Warren in 5th. Rodney Watford in 6th place, Daniel Osborne, Andrew Berger, Gary Champion, Dan Harrington, your top 10, and that's your lead lap cars. Coming home after that, 1 lap down, Ryan Pillen, Paul Savant, Raven out 2nd, Brandon Cruz Monsavice, Brandon Chaburko, Mike Thiel, Mark Jorgensen Jr., Tom Drayling, and Larry Camp. Fantastic end to that one. Well, folks, we will just go for a very short break. After that, stick with us. We will have post-race interviews. They're not to be missed.
This is Circuit de la Sarthe, known around the racing world simply as Le Mans. Since 1923, this track in western France has been home to the world's original 24-hour endurance race. Coupled with the likes of the legendary Indianapolis 500 and the Monaco Grand Prix, the 24 Hours of Le Mans is widely regarded as the world's most prestigious endurance race, and it forms a part of motorsport's Treble Crown. The first race was held on the outskirts of Le Mans back in 1906 and was called the French Grand Prix, the first Grand Prix of its kind. It was run on public roads, with 1 lap of the circuit stretching just over 103 kilometers. Then, in 1922, the secretary of the AECO, Georges Durand, was given 100,000 francs to facilitate and devise a new race for the region. Durand took this as an opportunity to stage something completely unheard of, a 24-hour endurance race that would push the modern race car to its limits, where manufacturers would prove their worth to the world. Durand's original Circuit de la Sarthe stretched 17.2 kilometers and was entirely comprised of public roads. It ventured into the city of Le Mans and stretched to a tight hairpin, before venturing on to the 8-kilometer long Mulsanne Straight. In 1929, the hairpin was bypassed due to safety concerns with expanding town suburbs, and safety was always a thing that changed and progressed the racetrack over the years. In 1932, the track as we know began to take shape. That was prompted by the construction of a new 1.5 kilometer bypass running from the start-finish area to the new entrance of the Mulsanne Straight, the now infamous Tête Rouge corner. This section featured the fast first curve that remains today, and what would later become the location of the famous Dunlop Bridge. Now, back in 1923, It was a field of 33 drivers that competed in the inaugural event, and their average speed, 57 miles an hour. By 1956, the field had increased to 49 cars, and they were running at nearly twice the average speed, at 104 miles an hour. As the cars became quicker and the competition rose, the track continued to evolve. For example, in 1972, the final section of the track was completely reconfigured to bypass the dangerous Maison Blanche kink. This included the addition of the Porsche curves and the revised Ford chicanes to slow the cars on the run from Anage corner to the start-finish line. These features remain today. One of the then traditional aspects of the race was the Le Mans start. Drivers would stand across to the track where the cars were parked, and then at the drop of the French tricolor, they ran to their car, climbed in, fired the engine, engaged first gear, and pulled away in a cloud of exhaust and burned rubber. Not surprisingly, this was discontinued for safety reasons, as drivers would either rush to buckle their seatbelts, they didn't even bother buckling them at all. Dan Gurney, who together with AJ Foyt won the 1967 race, famously recounted using his knees to steer his Ford GT Mark II on their opening lap at speeds well above 200 miles an hour whilst he fastened his seatbelt. Since 1971, Le Mans has reverted to the more traditional rolling start used throughout endurance racing today. Le Mans will ever be known as the proving ground for car manufacturers and a lifelong dream for drivers. It continues to rank as the pinnacle of endurance racing that inspires similar races to take shape around the world. Things like the 24 Hours of the Nürburgring, or the 24 Hours of Spa, or the Rolex 24 at Daytona. But there will only ever be one Le Mans. Experience Le Mans on iRacing.
Welcome back to coverage here of the Superspeedway Cup Series on LSRTV. Well, we're here for post-race coverage, and we have our first guest today. Rod Flagg, we normally talk to as series organizer, but Rod, the number 10 Pontiac Grand Prix, back in victory lane here, showing him how to do it at Daytona 07.
Yeah, we kind of were, we started off on the pole tonight, so we had a great speed in the car, and kind of in the middle of the race, I thought it was a little too hectic for my liking, so I did kind of go to the end of the pack, and then I ended up losing the pack for a while. So I was hanging out with the 61 car for a while back there, and then caution came out about 2/3 through the race, got us back caught up, and just kind of bought our time. I never thought we were going to be able to get up there because the both of the lines were kind of blocked. So when Dana lost his momentum or got knocked out of line, it ruined that high line, and I just gave Corey a heck of a bump and got him forward, and then before I knew it there, I was able to make a pass and hold off the 17.
Certainly did, of course, and a fantastic run there with some incredible performance when it came to it. That car just always seems to have the speed at the right time. You've had a couple of rough rounds recently, but this one showing that number 10 back on top. What makes it tick for you in the 10 crew?
Well, how long have we been doing this? And it's been over 2 years since we've actually been to points victory lane. We won a couple shootouts, and since then, and those just aren't points races. Those are for fun, but it hasn't been a lack of speed. We seem to always qualify well. We're always up there, but something just seems to happen that can put us to the back. But I'm pretty proud of our effort. We earned that one. We went up there and found a hole and took a pass for the lead, and we led laps early in the race. So these are the ones that really feel good, is you feel like you earned it, and just kind of watching the last couple laps afterwards, it looked like we put on a pretty good show.
Certainly was, of course, and a fantastic run there regardless. Congratulations to you and the whole 10 crew for getting that car back to victory lane in a points-paying race. So showing them who's boss, even still. Thank you very much for joining us, Rod Flag, and we'll talk to you hopefully next week.
Yeah, I just want to thank again the drivers of Superspeedway Cup. I know there's a lot of folks who watch us on a weekly basis. We are going to be kind of opening our doors for new drivers, hopefully as early as next week. So it's one of our priorities is we'd like to get some guys that are interested or girls who are interested in coming in and racing with us. If you're interested, go to superspeedwaycup.com/join, and we'll definitely make it a priority to look at some of those applications this week. And we'd love to have a big field for our Talladega race next week. But again, thank you, Pontiac, Aaron's, everybody involved makes 10 crew happen.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, and congratulations, Rod Flag, bringing home the victory today at Daytona 2007. Next up, Justin Levine coming home today in the second place. Justin, that 17 was bad fast today. Second place, the best you could manage, but it was one of those drag races of anybody's chance there on the line.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun. I love this setup and package.
Certainly a different, perhaps, to recent weeks, of course, with some changes from the new build. The cars out there looked a little bit unstable at times, but you guys just about held it in place.
Yeah, that's just, I guess, Daytona 07. Last week, we were pretty stable. There was just, people wrecking like always, but this was a good green flag run. What did we do, like 60-something laps before the first wreck when I got turned?
It would have been about that number, yes. About 60 or so. Oh, no, about 38 laps, actually, until we had a caution.
Really? Oh,
So
it felt longer.
Oh, fantastic. Either way, anybody you'd like to give a shout out to for yourself and the 17 crew?
I want to shout out to Rod. Congratulations on the win. Want to thank him for everything he does. This league is so much fun. All my teammates out there, Paul, Brandon, Ray, Dana, and Dan. Before I forget Dan, oh boy. But yeah, that's about it. Oh, and you guys. I love going back and watching the replay. It's a lot of fun.
Well, thanks to you too. Either way, fantastic result coming home today in second place. Justin Levine now, the number 17. Thank you very much for joining us, Justin. And
Thank you.
Down on pit road, we have Brian Macklin standing by with Corey Henry and the 12 crew.
Yeah, I've caught up with Corey Henry. Corey, you were the highest finishing playoff contender here tonight at Daytona. Had a pretty wild night. Came home with a third place finish. Take us through your night here.
Oh, man, I don't know where to start. Daytona 07, I say it every time I get up here in the booth. It's a handful, but it sure is fun. I hope we put on a great show for everybody watching tonight on LSRTV. To be honest, we just kind of started middle of the field, just kind of took our time, rode around in the back, make sure we stay out of trouble. And as green flags pit stop started to come into effect, we just made sure we got on the pit road, didn't have any penalties or anything like that. We got stuck behind about 8 seconds off the pack. We had a 14-second pit stop at a bad time. Fortunately enough, though, there was trouble up in the lead pack, and we were able to get a caution flag and going back up with the field. And can't complain. I was really hoping to get that win. We led like the last 15 or so laps. We were digging hard on the bottom, and eventually Rod made a great move there at the end. So hats off to him. Congratulations. I'm happy to see him get a win. It's been a long time waiting for him, longer than me. He made a great move on me going on the outside, and finally the odds were stacked up against me. I didn't have any help on the bottom at that point, but we were able to come away with the third place finish, like you said. Some of the chase racers had a really bad night, so we'll take a good points tonight and head into next week at Talladega and hopefully maintain this momentum. I was telling Rod, I don't need a win if I can stay and get the championship. I win the championship old school.
Absolutely, that would be the way to do it. 2 races left in this championship battle, though. Yourself, Chris Passini, Rodney Walford, you guys have made a little bit of a gap over the other contenders. Of course, we had one driver that did not show up, and then Mark Jorgensen Jr. and Brandon Chaburko had a pretty rough night. What is it going to take for you and the number 12 machine to win the championship in these next 2 weeks?
It's just going to take consistency. Nights like tonight, stay out of trouble. I mean, you can see Mark and Brandon are hell of a drivers. They're always up front. They contend for the win, but it's just ever so slight mistakes, getting on the right rear, left rear, and that's all it takes to end your night. And unfortunately, that happened to those guys. But like I said, they're always up front. They're contenders. They deserve to be where they're at. But every now and then you push that edge, and it costs you. So we're just going to have to stay consistent. Miss all the trouble, stay out of trouble, have good pit stops, stay up front, and hopefully we'll come away. I don't know what the points look like right now, but I'm happy with tonight being the first guy across the line in points.
Yeah, absolutely. We look forward to seeing that championship battle over the next 2 weeks and see if you can come out on top. Before we let you go, Corey, just want to give you a chance to say thank you to any sponsors and say hello to any friends or family. Who makes it happen for you on the number 12 machine, Corey?
First off, got to thank my teammates tonight, Rodney and Chris. We work on strategy all race long. We help each other stay up front, and as you can see, we're the top 3 chasers right now. So hats off to them. We had a really good night. I want to thank my dad for checking in and watching every night like he does, and say hello to the rest of my family that's tuning in also. And I want to give a big shout out to Rod for his win, and appreciate him putting on the league and letting us come out and do what we do every Friday night. And as always, LSRTV, Brian, Rachel, Cisco, you all are here every week, and you make it entertaining during the week to go back and watch and relive all of our great moments.
Well, thank you for that, Corey. Congrats on your good finish here tonight, and good luck over the next 2 weeks trying to win that championship.
All right, we'll go for it. Thank you.
All right, that's Corey Henry. He finished 3rd here tonight. He was the highest finishing playoff contender when it was all said and done, looking to try to win that championship. I'm going to throw it back to Rachel now. We had an absolutely incredible race here tonight. Definitely tells us exactly what we should expect over the next 2 weeks when these guys are going to be that much more aggressive trying to win that championship.
It certainly does, and with 3 races and the cumulative results ending up with the champion, Brandon Chaburko, Mark Jorgensen Jr. and Jason Ottmans are on the back foot already. The onus now on Corey Henry, Chris Bassini and Rodney Wofford to get through this one with no mistakes whatsoever. There's one thing we can guarantee here at LSRTV: the last 2 weeks are not going to be missable at all. This will be incredible racing. As always, a big thanks to President Rod Flagg, VP Frank Basile III, and Larry Camp, Kelly Dahl and Jason Ottmans from the Superspeedway Racing Club for their work behind the scenes, bringing the on-track action to us on Friday nights. For more information on LSRTV, you can find us online at livesimracing.com and on Facebook at facebook.com/live-simracing-TV. For the latest information, you can find us next on iRacing Live. I've been Rachel Whitefoot. I've been joined by Brian Macklin. As always, the lovely and talented Cisco Scaramuza back in our production trailer. You've been watching LSRTV. Have a great night.